Hi, I'm Miller. I used to think family meant having each other's backs no matter what. Man, was I wrong. Before everything went sideways, I had a decent life. Working construction with good overtime pay, sharing an apartment with my buddy Sam, and saving up for my own place. My parents, Robert and Linda, always favored my sister Caroline, but I'd convinced myself that's just how families are sometimes. When are you going to get a real career, Miller? Your sister's already finishing her master's degree. That was my dad's favorite conversation starter at our monthly family dinners. I'd just smile and change the subject, no point arguing. Then came the accident. I was driving home from a night shift when a drunk driver plowed through a red light. Next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital with metal rods in my leg and doctors saying I might not walk normally again. You're lucky to be alive, son. The doctor wasn't wrong, but lucky wasn't how I felt during those first brutal months of recovery. Physical therapy was hell and I couldn't work. My savings disappeared fast. We're here for you, sweetie. Family takes care of family. Mom said this while bringing me groceries, which was nice, but she'd always follow it with stories about how Caroline was struggling to find a house in a good school district for her future kids, always steering the conversation back to her golden child. My lawyer Jenkins was a bulldog. The drunk driver had good insurance, and there was no question about fault. This settlement should cover your medical bills, lost wages, and future care. It's substantial, Miller. I recommend setting up a separate account. When the settlement finally came through, it was life-changing money, $650,000, enough to cover my medical bills, replace lost income, and maybe even start my own small contracting business someday. I followed Jenkins' advice and set up a separate account, giving my parents emergency access because, well, they were my parents. 3 months later, I tried to withdraw money from my rent and saw my balance, $17,482. That couldn't be right. I called the bank immediately. Yes, sir. There were 2 major transfers in the past month, both authorized with your signature. But I hadn't signed anything. Panicking, I drove to my parents' house, my still healing leg aching. What did you do with my money? Dad wouldn't look me in the eye. Mom started crying. We were helping you manage it. Caroline needed a down payment on her house. She has a family to think about. She's not even married. That was my money, for my medical bills, for my future. Don't be selfish, Miller. We're family. Caroline has always had a plan. You were just drifting before the accident. I stared at them, these strangers wearing my parents' faces. Where's the house? Mom showed me pictures on her phone. A beautiful 4-bedroom in the suburbs. My sister's dream home bought with the money meant to rebuild my shattered life. Caroline will pay you back someday, Dad said, when she's established. That's when I knew. There would be no payback. There never is with people like them. I slammed the door of my parents' house so hard the windows rattled. With nowhere else to go, I called my mom's sister, Aunt Diane, who'd always been the black sheep of the family for calling out their BS. Of course you can stay here, Miller. Those two have been pulling stunts like this for years. Aunt Diane's spare room wasn't fancy, but it was drama-free. The next morning, she dropped a stack of coffee-stained folders on the kitchen table. Your grandpa left trusts for both you and Caroline. I've always wondered if you ever got your share when you turned 25. What trust? I never heard about any trust. That's what I thought. Your parents were the trustees. Check your credit report, kiddo. I called Sam immediately. Besides being my best friend, he worked as a financial advisor and knew his stuff. Meet me at Murphy's Diner in 30. Bring whatever bank statements you have. At the diner, Sam whistled low as I explained what happened. We need to see how they accessed your account. The bank wouldn't just hand over that kind of cash without documentation. My signature was on it, apparently. Forged, most likely. Let me make some calls. 2 hours and several free coffee refills later, Sam had screenshots of the transfer paperwork. That's definitely not your signature, man. Look at how the M is formed, and check out who notarized it. Your mom's friend Patty from her book club. I felt sick. So they straight up committed fraud. Multiple felonies, actually. And based on your credit report, they've opened 3 credit cards in your name over the last 5 years. My head was spinning. I decided to confront Caroline directly, driving to my new house that afternoon. When she opened the door, her smile vanished instantly. What are you doing here? Mom said you were being difficult about the house situation. Difficult? You're living in a house bought with money meant for my medical care? Don't be so dramatic. Mom and Dad said you agreed to help me out. They said the insurance company gave you way more than you needed anyway. I never agreed to anything. They forged my signature and stole my settlement. Caroline rolled her eyes. Well, I can't exactly give the house back, can I? Besides, you always waste your money. At least this way it went to something important. Important to who? I can barely walk without pain. Look, I have plans for my life, a career, a family someday. What do you have? Construction jobs and bar tabs. Be realistic, Miller. I looked around at the marble countertops and hardwood floors my suffering had paid for. You know what? Enjoy it while it lasts. Back at Aunt Diane's, we dug deeper. In her attic, we found old family financial records my grandfather had given her for safekeeping. Holy shit, Miller. According to this, you were supposed to receive $120,000 when you turned 25. Did you ever see that money? Not a cent. I was working double shifts to pay for community college when I was 25. Aunt Diane slammed her fist on the table. Those thieving bastards. Your trust fund, the insurance money. I wonder what else they've taken from you. I'm going to find out. Every last penny. The next morning, I called Attorney Jenkins, who had handled my settlement. His secretary fit me in that afternoon. This is textbook fraud, Miller. Forgery, identity theft, misappropriation of funds. We're looking at both civil and criminal charges. I shifted uncomfortably in the leather chair. They're still my parents. Parents who stole nearly $800,000 from you when you total everything. The settlement, your trust fund, fraudulent credit cards. That's not what parents do. What are my chances of getting the money back? From what you've told me, they've sunk most of it into your sister's house. We can place a lien on the property, freeze their assets, and pursue criminal charges. Given the evidence, I'd say your case is solid. Sam joined us, dropping a thick folder on Jenkins' desk. I've documented everything. Bank statements, credit reports, the forged documents. I even found evidence they've been filtering money through a shell, LLC, for years. How'd you manage that? I have a friend at the county records office. Did some digging on property transactions connected to your parents. They've been playing shell games with cash for over a decade. Jenkins flipped through the paperwork, nodding. This strengthens our case considerably. On the drive back to Aunt Diane's, Sam got a call from his friend at the county office. Dude, you're not going to believe this. That house they bought for your sister? It failed inspection 3 times before they purchased it. Foundation issues, black mold, electrical problems, the works. They knew about this? According to the records, they signed waivers acknowledging all the issues. They must have been desperate to close quickly. I laughed bitterly. So they stole my money to buy my sister a lemon. Back at Aunt Diane's, I found her addressing invitations. Annual family reunion next weekend. I know, terrible timing, but I always host. A light bulb went off in my head. Actually, that's perfect. Everyone will be there, right? The whole toxic bunch, your parents, Caroline, all the cousins and aunts and uncles who enable their behavior. Including Ryan? Aunt Diane raised an eyebrow. Your cousin? Haven't seen him in years after your dad cheated him out of that business deal. That's exactly why I need to talk to him. I called Ryan that night. We hadn't spoken since he stormed out of a family gathering 5 years ago, accusing my father of sabotaging his contracting business. Miller, this is unexpected. I know we haven't talked, but I think we might have similar experiences with my father. Silence, then a sigh. What did he do to you? After I explained, Ryan let out a low whistle. That tracks. Your old man screwed me out of a $200,000 investment, claimed the business was failing when he was actually diverting contracts to his buddy's company. Do you have proof? Emails, contracts, bank statements, everything. I was going to sue, but your dad threatened to ruin my reputation in the industry. I moved states instead. Would you be willing to share that evidence and maybe attend Aunt Diane's reunion this weekend? Why? So they can play victim again? No, so we can expose them in front of the entire family with irrefutable evidence. Ryan laughed. Count me in. I've been waiting years to clear my name. We spent the next few days preparing. Sam organized the financial evidence. Jenkins prepared legal documents. Aunt Diane arranged the seating chart to ensure my parents and Caroline would be front and center. And I practiced exactly what I would say. The night before the reunion, Aunt Diane handed me a glass of whiskey. You sure about this? Once you go nuclear, there's no going back. They went nuclear when they stole my future. I'm just returning the favor. Aunt Diane's backyard was packed with family members by noon. My parents arrived fashionably late, Caroline trailing behind them. They froze when they spotted me sitting at the main table. What's he doing here? I thought you said he wouldn't come. Aunt Diane smiled sweetly at my mother. It's a family reunion, Linda. Miller is family. My father attempted damage control, approaching with an outstretched hand. Son, good to see you. Let's put aside our differences for today. I didn't shake his hand. Actually, Robert, I wanted to share something with everyone. As if on cue, Sam and Attorney Jenkins emerged from the house carrying folders. Ryan appeared from the side gate, locking eyes with my father, whose face went pale. I'd like everyone's attention, please, I announced, standing up. The chatter died down. I've recently discovered some information that affects not just me, but potentially others in this family. This isn't the time or place, Miller, my mother hissed. It's exactly the time and place. Everyone here deserves to know who you really are. I laid out everything methodically. The forged documents, the stolen settlement money, the embezzled trust fund, the fraudulent credit cards. Sam provided financial records. Ryan shared evidence of my father's business sabotage. Jenkins explained the legal implications. That's absurd. We were helping him manage his money. My father's face had turned crimson. By forging my signature? By stealing my trust fund? By buying Caroline a house with severe structural problems you deliberately hid from her? Caroline stood up so fast her chair tipped over. What structural problems? Sam handed her the inspection reports. Foundation issues, black mold, electrical hazards. Your parents signed waivers acknowledging all of it. You knew? You bought me a death trap with stolen money? My mother reached for her. Sweetheart, we were trying to help both of you. By committing multiple felonies, Aunt Diane interjected, how many others here have mysteriously lost money around these two? Hands slowly raised around the yard. My cousin Beth, my Uncle Jim, even my grandmother. I've filed both civil and criminal charges, I continued. There's a lien on the house. The police have been notified about the forgery and fraud. This isn't going away. My father lunged at me, but Ryan stepped between us. Don't make it worse, Uncle Robert. As if summoned by my words, 2 police officers appeared at the gate. Jenkins had timed the warrant perfectly. Robert and Linda Anderson, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of forgery, fraud, and grand theft. The family watched in stunned silence as my parents were handcuffed and led away. 3 months later, I sat in Jenkins's office signing the final settlement papers. My parents had taken a plea deal, restitution, probation, and community service to avoid jail time. They'd mortgaged everything they owned to pay me back. Caroline had been forced to sell the house at a massive loss after the structural issues became public knowledge. The lien ensured I received the proceeds. So that's it? It's over? I asked Jenkins. Financially, yes. You've been made whole, plus damages. Emotionally, that's up to you. That night, Sam, Ryan, Aunt Diane, and I celebrated at her house, my new family of choice. To justice, Aunt Diane raised her glass. And to starting over, I added. My phone buzzed. Another desperate message from my mother. I deleted it without reading and blocked the number. Some people don't deserve second chances. Sometimes cutting the cancer out is the only cure. As I looked around at the people who'd stood by me, who'd helped me fight for justice, I knew I hadn't lost my family. I just found my real one. What would you have done in Miller's position? Is it ever okay to completely cut toxic family members out of your life with no chance of reconciliation? Or should blood relatives always get another chance, no matter what they've done? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this revenge story of justice served, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up to toxic people. New videos every day.